I'm IBB, the founder of Netokracija, and I've been writing about this so peaceful and so nice industry for more than 15 years. And this panel is going to be about how to launch a technology company in Croatia and the region in 2024 with my esteemed panelists, who I'd like to introduce themselves to just get a bit of context, although they're probably the most well-known founders of tech companies in Croatia, starting maybe with Marko.
Thanks, Ivan. Hi, everyone. I'm Marko, obviously CEO and founder of Rentlio. Rentlio is a tech company, hospitality tech company, developing custom PMS, property management system, channel management, and booking engine. We are based here in Zadar, so I'm very proud I can speak at InfoBip Shift that is held here in my own town. Hope you are enjoying it and hope you will hear some nice stories from these 4 bold guys.
4 bold guys, I like that.
I'm not bold yet. Hi everybody, my name is Tomislav, Tomislav. I'm the CEO at Productive. Productive is a B2B SaaS company. We do software for project management, time tracking, mostly for marketing agencies, software development agencies all across the world. I've been in the tech industry for 20 years now. I started Infinum, ran that for a bunch of years, and then now I'm doing this. I also invested in a lot of great startups. Croatia, not a lot actually, but I invested in some great startups.
Some are terrible.
Yeah. And yeah, glad to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Burazin. I'm the founder of the Shift Conference, which has been acquired by InfoBip and still going strong. Before that, I co-founded a company called Code Anywhere, the very first browser-based IDE, and as of a year and a half ago, co-founded Daytona, which is a dev environment management system mostly focused on very large enterprise customers in speeding up productivity, happiness, and security of their development environments. Thank you.
Good feedback. Okay, so moving to the topic of our panel. Honestly, when I was thinking about this panel, I wasn't sure where to start because it's pretty broad. And then thankfully, Paul Graham came out with an essay, the founder of Y Combinator, called Founder Mode. How many of you have here read the essay called Founder Mode by Paul Graham? Okay, not a lot. So just to give a context, so as one of the most prominent early stage investors in tech companies in the US, Paul Graham basically wrote about how in the US, specifically in Silicon Valley, founders should get back to founder mode. Because as tech companies scale, they get a lot of added layers of management and people and so on. And in Paul's opinion, it wasn't leading to success. So founders should get back to founder mode. They should get back to doing what founders do. And that's going to be the basis of this panel in terms of, well, okay, for the Silicon Valley, that's one thing, but what do founders need to do here to succeed? But first of all, to ask my panelists, what did you think about Graham's essay? Does it hold true for our environment? Is there something different about it? What were your thoughts?
I can start. Yeah, so basically, who here works at a startup or any type of company like that? Okay, where does everybody else work? Like big companies or just looking for jobs, or who works in a big corporation, like huge ass corporation? Okay. Okay, so not a lot of people here work at startups, but the kind of startups usually grow or fail. It's either one of those two things. And when they grow, you as a founder, which is like what we here are, the problem is usually you have to kind of hire people, manage them, and it's always been a problem, and it's been a problem for me personally also. How much do you get involved in the actual stuff that people are doing, and how much do you just kind of let them do their own thing, right? And this is the kind of what Ivan is talking about. It's called founder mode. And over the years, you had this flip-flopping around that topic. And I like the essay. I liked it. It was very popular on internet in general. I think there's, it's a nuanced thing always. It's never one black or white situation. It is a little bit of rebranded micromanagement. So they're basically trying to say now
micromanagement is good. Huh? Micromanagement is good.
Micromanagement is good, but I mean, it's not good. I don't know. I think for some situations it's good, but it's also not scalable. But truth be told, like me personally, I really try to get involved in the work and not get bogged down in some stupid shit. Just try to get like what our job as a company is to build products and to find customers. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to do all of my time, and like just not get involved in the other stupid shit that companies typically get into, if you understand what I mean. Yeah.
If we don't, what would an example of stupid shit, getting involved in stupid shit be?
I don't know, like some bunch of huge ass meetings with like, 20 people where we discuss which plants are we going to buy for the office, or like something that's not important and just sucks up everybody's time and energy. But people think it's important because for some reason. Just a random example, but.
Ivan, you mentioned that micromanagement is good.
No,
I mean,
it's like I was having a conversation recently, and so basically the counter to founder mode is manager mode, more or less. Manager mode is like a army, so you have like a general, captain, whatever, and then you have his subordinates, then their subordinates and their subordinates, and then everything goes downwards from that, sort of top down. And I feel that the issue with that, and I've seen that as well, is that people then keep hiring new people to offload their work, and then it's just like it just goes, it never ends, and it ends up being that the people that are least qualified end up making the decisions, because it ends up being bottom up instead of top down, because you're just delegating all the way down. It's like, oh, we have to do, these are our KPIs, you have to get whatever customers. Okay, sales team, go do that. That's head of sales. Okay, then he sends out further down, and I think the inverse of that is founder mode, where it's like you as a founder work on everything. You can't work on everything at the same time, but what is clogged at this moment? What is the biggest pain point? And then you get into the weeds of that, and then you solve that. So if you're, as a company, the biggest issue is something in the product, or the biggest issue is getting customers, or the biggest issue, whatever it may be, you get into the weeds of that thing, and you personally take care of it. In the sense of like, personally, you get into what the issue is, find the roadblocks, remove the roadblocks, and get everything moving. So in essence, it is kind of micromanagement. There is a very negative connotation to that where you have to be, but it is more of people get locked into the problem that they're trying to solve, in the weeds of that, instead of what is the outcome the company wants to achieve. And so our outcome is to do this, and so how do we get to that? And so a lot of times you as a founder are the only person that can see it at such width, and then you can go in and sort of move out the mess. I'm not sure how much sense it makes to everyone, so feel free to like push back on it, because I'm looking at how you're looking at me right now.
Marko, did you want to say something, and then I'll push back?
I just wanted to say that, and that's the topic I often speak with Tomislav about. We all learned about that you just need to hire great people and move away, but it's not like that in real life. You can't move away. You need to have your hands on as a founder, as a CEO. You probably have the clearest vision of the company, of the product you are working on, and I think that the moral of Paul's story is about the balance. You need to balance all the time, not to get into the micromanagement shit, but also not to move too far away and be totally out of what your managers are doing. If you start implementing management layers too early, too fast, you will probably end up being just some bureaucratic organization with a lot of people thinking about something and talking about something, but not working on it.
I want to add on that if I can. I actually sent it out in my last investor report. If one of my investors sitting here actually read it, I don't know. Where my learning is part of this as well is that we're a 0 to 1 company. Like Daytona's still very young. We're still like building shit out. And so you have to also hire great people for your scale. So if you hire great people that are for like a scale of 100 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, those people cannot fit, or the vast majority, in where you are. And I have not seen enough people talk about this. Brian Chesky sort of talks about it in his talk, which was the precursor to the founder mode. But I also didn't learn that. It's like, oh, we have these great people, from these great companies. They know the shit. They maybe do, but not for the scale that you are. So you have to be very careful on that.
Yeah, it's basically when people hire somebody that worked at Google and think that's going to solve their problems in a 10-person company. It's just these people, it's not the same level of scale that you're working at. It sounds great on paper, and I've seen it. People get really happy. Oh, we got a great hire from some big company. Rarely does it work.
Rarely, but also it's a very good signal. I've had calls with investors, so prominent investors, when you have those good hires, for them it's a green flag, where rather it should be a red flag.
Yeah, it's probably like more like a fundraising topic in that sense.
It's a good topic though, and I know that Tomislav, you have an opinion on this, where like especially in the region, we don't have those people that have worked in large companies because we haven't had those successes, or
We're at a conference of one of these companies.
okay, and then should startups not hire ex-Infobeep, for example, people because it was at a scale that's not as close for this? How should they think about it?
No,
How can you test it or just
I don't think
evaluate?
it's not hard. It's just that the fact that somebody has worked in these big companies, it's not enough to actually signal that this person is going to be a good fit. It's also not a signal that they're not going to be a good fit. So you kind of have to balance that out, I guess. It's more on the character of the person. Are you a person that can survive in a startup where it's completely different? There's less structure. You have to make your own decisions. And if you're working in another company, you had like a team. I think it's very common with marketing, for example, where people kind of expect to find people for like head of marketing or something at a whatever 20-person startup. That person is doing everything. And I'd see that. I mean, you have it in all types of jobs, but marketing is very common that people have problems there because it's so broad, right? And if you hire somebody from like one of these big companies, they need to be aware that they're not going to do it the same way that they did it before. And if they haven't, there's a mismatch during the hiring process. You're kind of promising something to them, and they're like, yeah. And then they come on the job. Okay, where's my marketing budget? I need at least $2 million for this year. And you're like, yeah, we got 50K.
Yeah, it ends up being they are either a manager and generalist and they had people and budget, or they're a specialist and they know how to do social media, but they don't know how to do whatever
Yeah,
else.
I mean, I was going to add, Tomislav is absolutely right. It's like, it's not a red or green flag in the sense of like a person X Remats, Infobip is not going to be good or bad inherently out of that. But the structure that is expected behind these large companies does not exist in these 0-to-1 companies, right? And so that's a very, very different mindset, right? And so if you are not excited about, so what's the trade-off? The trade-off is you're very much empowered to do whatever the hell you want, but there's no structure, there's no organization, there's no working hours, there's no non-working hours. Like, you have the empowerment, but you have all the responsibility, right? And if you want cut off on responsibility, you have less power, but you have more organization. So that's also something for everyone personally to figure out where they fit in which type of company.
Yeah, I'm like the no working hours. I don't agree on that. Like, I try to keep that part at least, structured, because I think people burn out pretty quickly. But that's just my attitude towards that.
But you're further along than we are a bit.
Yes, but still.
I'm curious, like, what would you advise people who work at startups or maybe scale-ups, but like their founders are trying to focus on their area and so on. They might be good at it, or they might really micromanage. Would you advise those people who are working at founders, who go into founder mode, in order to both help themselves and those founders like not mess up things? Because I've heard stories, especially again from marketing, where like the CEO, like I get the freedom to do a campaign or whatever, but then it's not right, and the CEO comes in, changes everything, and what's the point of that? What would you advise people that are working with founders, what their attitude should be, how would they approach the communication or whatever?
Well, I can say from my own experience that basically understanding the problem the company is solving is probably the best way to get closer to the founder, because he or she is the person who started all the things and knows the vision of the product itself, of the company. And especially in marketing, I think knowing the problem you are solving is 80% of the job you have. That's for example, in our experience, one of the things we are trying to figure out all the time, and taking out that responsibility and ownership out of the founder, of the CEO or whoever, is basically the way you can build your own team, your own, how to say, space around yourself inside that very usually chaotic surrounding, which is very often in companies which are starting, scaling up or whatever. We went through those stages from many times, like we used to hire people from Booking.com, and when we hired first one many years ago, I thought that all the problems are now solved. We have a person who was working in Booking.com. That's it. Now we'll rock the market, but it doesn't go like just like that. So knowing the problem is crucial to get the ownership of your everyday job in the startup.
So the question was how to approach the cooperation with founders. So in my opinion, like founders, if it's like a top-down, like I'm shouting out orders, from the top of the hill situation, I don't think that that's good. I think you need to have, like, everybody, you're a colleague to these people, basically. You're working with them. So they have to have the spine or to push back on your shit, because founders are not always right. Of course they're not, otherwise you would have all the companies would be successful. So it has to be like some sort of back and forth happening there. The problem is, I think sometimes, because they're the boss and they're giving you the page, and people are sometimes hesitant to push back to these people, even though they have some harebrained ideas. So it has to be a situation where you kind of also hire people that are not going to just do whatever you tell them, but they're going to stand up. I mean, stand up, it sounds like a fight, but it's not. It's just like, I have my ideas, you have your ideas, we talk about it. I give you my input from my perspective because I've been doing it for a longer time, but you give me your input from what you know, and you know some stuff better than me. So I'd say that's the way it can only work. Yeah.
But it also has to be like, you have to know the shit better than the founder. So you have to tell, so if I'm the founder, and so I have this with my colleagues, and one of them that was over there as well, we fight a lot. And there's another one that's talking right now on the other stage, and we fight a lot. Like, we actually fight. We tell each other to go to hell. But the thing is that the shit that we fight about, like, he actually knows. So it's like, I will respect that and fight with him because he knows that. But if you come with me with a half-baked idea that you sort of saw and sort of seen somewhere, I don't trust you because that is a half-baked idea. You didn't think about it. I ask you 2 questions and you're done, right? So do you know your shit better than I do? And then you actually earn the right to actually stand up for ideas. And then sometimes a founder will overturn. If they're a good one and they're wrong, they'll apologize. Sometimes they won't overturn and they'll say, like, you're right away and let's go do what you're doing, right? So there always has to be an outcome of that. But you essentially have to earn the right. You have to know that stuff enough to be able to present that. And if you're not willing to do that, then again, that's why the 0 to 1 companies probably aren't the fit for you.
Let's go into the different hats that founders must wear, especially in the 0 to 1 phase, maybe of the company. So, like, back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago, when most of you were starting your own companies, like, not the same, but like most investors would say, oh, you have good engineering talent, you don't have good like sales, marketing, etc. As far as sales now, how important is for founders in 2024 to really like do the sales when they start a company, especially if they're B2B, be in the front lines with clients, and what would you advise them based on your experience so far?
It depends. Like, there's B2B, B2C. B2C doesn't have it, obviously. B2B, which I think we're all in B2B, more or less. You sort of have another combination of that. I mean, there's two trains of thought. One is founder-led sales to like $1 million ARR or whatever, because you as a founder want to talk to the customers, you want to get product feedback, you want to figure out this all shit. There's another thing of thought that I actually read quite recently out of a venture studio, which is super popular, which is super successful, where they say hire a sales team on day 0, no product, no revenue, no nothing. Sales team right away. And that's sort of a counterintuitive thought, but I'm thinking about that a lot because it does actually help. You're sort of a bit out of it, but if you're in the sense of a founder mode type person, you'll get into the weeds of it when it needs to be. But you just get these customers in, which will probably churn, like they won't become customers, but you'll get, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, we need this. And then you'll iterate faster. So those are my 2 thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we did the second thing, what he said. We were like 5 people, and we hired 2 salespeople, like at the same time. Because when we got, this is like product market fit, we can try and sell this, and then we hired 2 people just so that we can see if this goes well, then we'll sell a lot. If this goes, if one of them is better than the other, then okay, it's it's a problem of how we hired. And that turned out really good. Yeah, and exactly what he said, you're kind of into it, but you're not doing the selling. The reason why I did that back then is I didn't want to do the selling because then I wouldn't do it. It would be like 30% of my time. And because there's other stuff to do, right? And I just realized, this is going to be too slow if we do it like that.
I was just going to add before we get in there, we're hiring 3 now just to benchmark, to figure out, like, is it the product that doesn't work? Is the sales rep good? Is it not? I mean, it's not a perfect analogy, but the more you have, similar to your 2, we just sort of try to figure out what works, what doesn't.
I would like to add that whenever we talk about product companies here in the region, we always talk about engineers and engineering teams, and we very, very often forget that sales is generator of a company's growth. So I would definitely like to emphasize the thing, that's my opinion, I don't know, will you guys agree? We here in the region especially, and probably in the Europe, are lacking a huge amount of sales talent in tech. Like that's one of the things I really think we should talk much more about, because getting to the repeatable sales process in each of these companies here is a holy grail of the next stage. And we do have very, very, huge challenges finding the right salespeople for our tech products. And when you compare how European people are selling the products and how Americans do that, it's a whole new level of approach. And I think there is a huge opportunity for young people who would like to work in tech to specialize in sales in tech to help those companies get faster to the next stage.
Is it a matter of lack of salespeople in general, or salespeople that can sell tech products?
I think it's a matter of lack of product companies in the region who got to the later stages of growth, because the companies are those who will, if there is no market for salespeople in the region, there won't be salespeople who will be hired. So it's a chicken and egg thing, but don't know.
As far as another group of people we don't have is products. So in the latest, I don't think I'm not sure if it was research or they just announced it at an event, but C6, the Croatian Software Exporters Association, talked a lot about the lack of product people, of product talent in the region. What's your thoughts there? Especially again, what's the role of founders in as product people with your startups, and then getting product people so someone can do it?
I'm hiring product and sales right now, right now. So I run product as well. I don't run engineering, but I run product, and I want to kill myself because I can't handle everything. Look, and I don't hate product. I love doing product.
And we have the article for the report on Netokracija.
There you go. And I'm sure he will confirm, because he brought that thought on me as well. You said something the other day, which was it's easier for me to hire a CEO than a head of product.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, probably. For product people, I don't know. When we hire for product managers, we get the most signups for that job. Just because I think people really, really want to do that job. It's kind of like you're like this little god of this part of the product. You can get your ideas out there. It's a bit of tech, a bit of design, a bit of create. It's a very interesting job, and I think a lot of people we get more for that job than for sales. Even though we might ask for longer term qualifications in more years, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big a problem. You have to go through it, you have to find the right people, but it can be done. I'm very happy with our product team.
Cool. Before I ask my last question, are there any questions from the audience? We have time for one question. Okay. Can we get the microphone? Can you keep your hand up, please? So, yeah, on the left. And please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Stjepan Bošnjaković from Zagreb. Nice to meet you. My question is regarding B2B sales in the early stages of a startup. So obviously, when you're in a stage that you don't have a lot of references, it's difficult to sell to bigger clients. And let's say, yeah, it's difficult to sell to the bigger clients. So my question is regarding the strategy, what are your suggestions? Is it better to, let's say, just remove from the table bigger clients at all until, let's say, enough, let's say, good project references have been gathered, or let's say continue pushing to the bigger clients, or how to, let's say, convince bigger clients to buy your product when you don't have a lot of references?
Thank you.
Can I? Yeah. Like, from my personal experience, we started as a company offering solution to small vacation rental properties in the region. And we slowly went up market to much bigger, higher paying clients. I think, I don't know what I think, but I know that it's naturally you go up market as you build up your product. It's definitely probably the founder's decision, and the founding team will decide should you fight and hit the biggest guys on the market or go slowly up market. It does have, there are obviously pros and cons of both approaches. We do have some competitors outside of Croatia who just went for the biggest guys on the market. They have their own problems, so I don't know. I don't think there is unique answer to your question. It really depends on the product, on the situation on the market, on the stage of your company, resources you have. Usually the bigger clients require much more resources from your side, implementation teams, onboarding teams, support teams, and stuff like that. If you are not ready for it, it can kill your company if you thoroughly start to hit the bigger guys.
I think the question is, why do you want to hit the bigger companies? Like, do you really, I mean, for some businesses it makes sense, for others it doesn't. Like, maybe you can sell to some other market segment. So it's like a lot of different variables, like Marko said, and then you kind of figure it out. Again, what bigger means is also kind of...
Is also a question, how big do you mean? So I can give you what we've done and what I've read from others, which might incur some changing in thought as well on our side. So we started with, like, our first client was one of the biggest companies in the world, and so that is more happened by chance than on purpose. And so we decided to go after enterprise first, which I think going after the biggest enterprise first is probably a mistake. The reason why is to what Marko said is they're going to have a lot of needs. They're going to need a lot of headcount to be able to support them in different stages of the process. You're going to have to need a lot of compliance requirements, like, do you have all the certifications? Do you have all the security need? Like, can you deliver on all of that? So what I've read very lately is that best working playbook for companies is to start with SMBs because they're quite quicker, faster. The ACV is a lot smaller, but they iterate, they give you feedback, and it gives you time to build up to the enterprise. And also what I was going to say, and that's where I sort of lost my thought, the sales cycle for large enterprises is insanely long. And so do you have the money to sort of survive? The average enterprise sales cycle is like 9 months. Our experience is like 7 on the short end, like 14 on the long end. So, like, can you pay people to work on that for that amount of time before you actually start getting the revenue? And you might not get the revenue. So it seems to be that the common wisdom is to go SMB and then work your way up to the enterprise.
Awesome. So we have less than 2 minutes, but just quick tips on the topic of having money to survive, to sell, fundraising, right? A lot has changed. There's now local VCs, angels, some of them are here, and a lot more access to investors outside of Croatia. Any, like, short and sweet tips for founders that want to raise money?
I have two.
Go on.
Call Tomislav if you want money first. No, just kidding. That was a joke. Actually, it is a sales process. You're selling your company, pitch to everyone regardless of geography, but pitch to your sector that you're going after. We reached out to like 465 angels on our first round.
Cool. Tomislav?
About fundraising.
I mean, you are bootstrapped.
Yeah, so I think one of the things you have to figure out is what do you want to do with the company? Like, what's your idea? So how big do you want this to, like, some things are not VC investable, so is this one of them, etc. So it's a lot of, like, figuring out what you want to do and then just execute it like Ivan did with 400 and 500 people. So that's like a very, meticulously executed fundraising plan. And if you do that, I'm sure that you can, succeed in it.
Last but not least, you raise from Infinite Ventures, right?
Yeah, basically, but yeah, the guy with the money. Yeah. So basically, yeah, my philosophy was to be bootstrapped as long as possible, and we did that. I can't call Infinite Ventures typical VC money or something. We made a deal with these guys 2 years ago, and as you can see, I'm very happy because of it. About fundraising, it really depends. Is it too early for your company to fundraise? Will it lead you to being a fundraising company and not the company for the product you initially started? So it's matter of timing, I would say. We had a few amazing exits in the last few years here in the region, and basically that put all of us on the radar of the foreign VCs, on the foreign PA funds and stuff like that. But what you should need to know is what Tomislav just said. Is your company investable at the moment of trying to figure out how to fund your next stage?
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing your experience and knowledge, and thank you for being here and seeing this panel.
Actually, I'm going to steal a couple of more minutes, if I may. Please, IBB, thank you. I'll pay you a lot of money afterwards. Yeah. Biggest mistakes in terms of tech company, starting a tech company, especially in Croatia. The biggest mistake you have made, something that you would not do if you had to do it all over again. Just don't tell me that I made no mistakes.
No, I made a ton of mistakes. I think the biggest mistakes I made was just like hiring people from large enterprises and expecting, you said, they're going to solve our problems right now. So don't like, so I'll get into this more detail. So the first company I started, this is like my 5th company. The first company I started, like when we were hiring talent, I could only hire like students and whatnot. And so the reason was because they couldn't get a job anywhere else and I couldn't pay anymore. And so the idea was like, oh, okay, now we raised money. Now we can hire the big people. They're going to be awesome. It's like, not really, no. Especially for that stage, like students are awesome and great. And it's probably not it's probably something I should have leaned into more instead of moving away from that on the next company. So,
Tomislav.
So, yeah, so I think my biggest mistake was just not being ambitious enough at some point, just because. So basically, like I'm sitting in the office and we're doing this product, and I'm looking at this stuff, and like we're doing this the same way like some of our huge competitors, like billion-dollar companies, are doing it in terms of the quality, the process, the team, everything. And I'm like, they're not better than us. So why aren't we just going even stronger after the market, investing even more, fighting even more, something like that? And that just clicked in my mind at some point. I just kind of realized it's good to talk to like other ambitious people. When you see the people, I don't know, are building supercars in Croatia or doing stuff like that, and it kind of, yeah, I mean, if all those people can do it, like we can do it too. So that kind of just clicked at some point in my head, like that we are really at a quality level of just globally, and we can compete globally.
Marko?
I can completely agree with them. I would just add that from my experience, this is first time I founded a company. I think we didn't make any huge mistakes, but one of the biggest lessons I learned is it will take much longer than you think when you are starting it. Like, I wanted this company to grow faster, better, to be in a much further stage of development. But it always takes much longer than you think, and so have a patience with building your company.
There's this saying that people overestimate what you can do in a year, but also underestimate what you can do in a decade. Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. Please give it up for our panelists and our amazing moderator, IBB.